Bethany Warren here, and you've joined us for the weekly Our Millwall fan show with the Millwall No One Likes Us Talking team, which is broadcast every Friday evening. Enjoy!
I'm your host, Eamonn Barclay, and with me I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Ted Robinson, Dave Hart, and Stan the Man, Godwin.
Not everybody likes them, but they don't care.
Well, there was a poor first half at Sheffield United, and that was our undoing. But was there anything to take away from our defeat at Bramall Lane? What do you reckon, guys? Can I start with you, Ted?
Look, it's early season stuff, isn't it? I mean, we've got to be honest about it. The first goal was without a doubt a foul on Jake Cooper. I don't know what this new rule about that, but when you lean into the back of someone like that to stop him from heading the ball, to me, it's a foul. And it's unusual, very unusual for us as a team to get caught with what Stan would call long ball tactics, to be quite honest. A hoof out from the goalkeeper, one bounce, and the next thing you know, it's in the back of the net. But still, it was a foul. And then Charlie Cresswell, bless him, the man who was a star the week before, made a slight error with a back pass and put us into trouble. And from there on in, when you're 2-0 down, it's always going to be tough. And I think in this division, more so than most, once you get yourself in front, and as we prove, more often than not, when we get ourselves in front, the sides tend to be very difficult to beat. Early days, bad mistakes, write it off, let's move on, bring on Coventry.
Anything to add to that, Dave?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Ted said. They were going to come out 100 miles an hour. They got the 2 goals and we just couldn't get back into it.
Yeah, it was 2 goals and thankfully a nice save from Bart Bielkowski. Stan, what were the positives that you saw in that game?
I didn't see too many positives. I agree with Ted. You got the young kid at the back. I see him the first time and he was a good player. Or he is a good player, but he played well in his first game, and the goals he scored was a bonus, right? But from time to time, that sort of thing's going to happen because he's just trying to establish himself, and possibly on a couple of occasions, he'll do too much when he should have done a little bit less, and then it'll go a bit pear-shaped. But he'll learn that with experience, although if we're conceding goals, that don't help us. But anyway, I was reading in the Football League paper what the Sheffield United manager whether it's a legitimate tie-up or not, I don't know. He said when Millwall played Stoke last week, he said they carried on from how they finished the season, right? Because they was, it was all based on set pieces. Once you then stop them at the set pieces, Millwall have only got an obvious difficulty because they're not creating chances because it's all centred around set pieces. But that's what was said.
No, I'll get you right there. In fact, I listened to a commentator who said nothing has changed since Holloway and Harris were in charge at the top. Millwall have been about set pieces ever since Holloway entered the den. However, we didn't have all the players with us for that game, and all I can hopefully say is when they are available, perhaps there will be a different way of looking at how we take and play our game. Anyhow, we take a break there and hear about the new Fans Matchday programme.
Hi, Bethany here. Want a matchday programme? You'll find them with sellers outside the ground by the gates at Zampa Road, Stockholm Road and Senegal Road. They cost £1 and the sellers ask if you can have the right money, as change will be difficult. If you want to get a message, photos of special events, memorials, or just ones for good luck to be included, email smprogram@protonmail.com. That is smprogramme@protonmail.com. It's a great read.
I'm Eamonn Barclay, and with me I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Ted Robinson, Dave Hart and Stan Godwin. Don't forget, have your pound coin ready or buy 5 for a fiver. They ain't got too much change. Our first guest has become almost as familiar to listeners as many of our panel members. He played 339 games for us between 1967 and 1975. He's one of the legends of 72 who almost got us promoted to the top flight. England capped and left us for Saturday's opponents, Coventry City, who were an established top flight team at that time. And I guess many of you will be shouting, "It's Bryan King." Welcome, Bryan.
Good evening all of you.
Hey, Bryan.
Yeah, before I let you off to the panel, Bryan, it's great to have you, Dennis Burnett, Alan Dorney and Steve Brown talk about the 71-72 season at the Millwall Community Trust on April the 29th, which was the same day to commemorate the 50th anniversary of that great day, to a packed house with fans in the Lions Centre. The recorded Lions of 72 was also a smash hit, and there is a follow-up in 2023 celebrating one of our greatest victories of that time. Can you briefly tell us about that, Bryan?
Are you referring to the Millwall-Everton FA Cup game?
Or the Everton-Millwall FA Cup game, yeah.
Well, there we go. I always put Millwall in front of everybody, so it was a fantastic day. We had a bit of a nightmare journey up there. The train was late, bus weren't where it should have been, and Benny was going airless. We got there about 40 minutes before kick-off, so the preparation was a bit sharp. And of course, in those days, we never used to go out on the pitch until 5 minutes before the game anyway. There was about 35,000 people there, or if anybody's seen any of the highlights from the match, I mean, the pitch was not like it was what I saw at the weekend, that's for sure. You would say in those days that the pitches were very nice mud heaps, but again, it all made for excitement, and it certainly made for excitement in this game, because I can remember coming out, great atmosphere. We were well up for the game, and from the very first minute, actually, we were really under pressure. Yeah. I mean, the first half was, I would think, probably the best first half I've ever played for Millwall. Plenty of saves, managed to keep them out, and we went in at half-time 0-0. Came out second half, were fortunate they scored a goal early on, which would probably, if it had been allowed, that'd have been us good night from the FA Cup, but that was disallowed for offside. Joe Harper, I think it was. We went on then to steady the game down. We won a free kick about 20 yards out. Eamonn was on the ball, Gordon Bolland was on the ball, Dougie Alder. Eamonn saw the run, clipped it into the box, and dear old Harry Cripps got in there and headed it in. Great header. David Lawson floundering as it rifled into the net. I think that was Harry's 5th or 6th goal of the season up to that point, but it was great header and a great ball in. We then weathered the next storm. Howard Kendall got injured and had to go off, which gave a lot of our team a bit of a relief. Very good player. I mean, Howard was a great player. Funnily enough, the second goal, it was from me. I knocked it down the field straight to, well, I didn't aim for Gordon, but it ended up at Gordon, certainly at his feet. Great touch, turn, went down the right hand side, and what a cross he put in. I mean, and Alf Wood came in, and that was either his 15th or 16th goal of the season, Alfie. Great header of the ball, brave as a lion. And so it was a King Bolland Wood 2-0, and we hung on, and great celebrations in the dressing room afterwards, and away for the 5th, I think it was 6th round of the cup then that was the 5th round, and we were then drawn against Wolverhampton, which was again another big game, but we were unfortunate up there and got beat 1-0. Another good side, of course. I mean, they had a great side at the time. But those memories are the things that keep old buggers like me going, I think.
And yeah, we've got to remember a KBW to Everton. And that saw Millwall go through to the next round of the FA Cup. I'm looking forward to that happening down the Lions Centre, and we'll see how many of the team from that day that we can get down there.
That'd be great. Be great.
Hello, Brian. It's Ted here.
Hello, Ted.
All right, mate. Lovely to speak to you again.
I'll
certainly be down there at that next one for the team from that game, because it was a special game, no doubt about that. But
it was.
Bringing yourself back to today's game, I've got a couple of questions really. One we've been talking about Millwall lacking a 20-goal a season striker. What's your thoughts on that? And the second one is, as you're a goalkeeper, I think goalkeeping's changed enormously through this sort of back passing and getting them to play more like a sweeper now. How do you think you'd have coped with that, Brian?
Well, I used to play up front at least once a week. He always had us out on the playing as a centre forward or a wide player or something. Used to enjoy it. Used to get shouted at a bit because my first touch wasn't that good, but no, it was fun.
I'm not sure I fancied it on the pitches you played on, though, Brian.
Well, I certainly wouldn't fancy a back pass and then have to get it out of that mud.
Yeah.
You need more in the first touch, that's for sure. But, of course, when I started, when you picked it up, the centre forwards could come after you and hit you. So there was no place for trying to be fancy down in the box with the ball at your feet, because you'd as soon had a centre forward who'd ram you down in the ground. But I think I'd have enjoyed it. It's I'm not sure whether I enjoy watching how the goalkeepers work today. They don't do enough on holding on to the ball. When they come for crosses, they're always looking for free kicks. A lot of them. I watch the Premier League here at the weekend, and they've only got to have a touch and they're laying on the floor, they're making a fuss of it. Drives me mad. I mean, I sit here saying to my missus, I said, for crying out loud. I mean, if we'd have behaved like that in my day, I'd have never made 300 games for Millwall, that is for sure. But
I think us fans would have said something to you, Brian.
Well, I'm sure you would have done, and I'd have expected it as well. Who wants a pansy in goal?
Yeah.
No, it's a change going for sure. I don't know whether it's for the better. The thing that worries me is a distinct shortage of English-born goalkeepers. I mean, we're importing goalkeepers left, right and centre here, and that's not right. We must have enough kids in this country who want to be goalkeepers and should be trained and coached to be goalkeepers. No, I'm not a great believer on some of the goalkeeping coaching that's going on, and some of the goalkeepers. To say they're imposters, half of them, I'm not going to be that harsh, but I just wish they'd come and catch a cross now and again and look as though they want it and look as though they want to get amongst players. We've always said being a brave goalkeeper is not only about diving at people's feet, it's about making decisions. It's about, shall I catch it, shall I punch it, shall I come, shall I stay? You don't see it today, defenders back into them. They don't push them out so they give themselves any room to come and get crosses or catch balls. I'm sorry. I'm too old. I'm too old school, I think.
Well, they got these big, huge gloves as well today, Brian. You never had them, did you?
Well, we had gloves, but they were from the Army and Navy, so I think they're £5 a pair. I mean, Peter Cech's got a pair, or he had a pair of gloves there. I mean, 168 quid. How are you going to make you a better goalkeeper? It's the hands that are inside the gloves. Unfortunately, the coating on the ball, you have to wear those gloves. You have to, otherwise the thing's like a piece of soap. But that again is, when we would try, when I was handling the ball, you got hold of the ball, you felt it. If it stung, so what? But, you got hold of the ball. Nowadays, you see them come out, they train for 20 minutes before, they go back in, and they come out again 5-6 minutes before the game starts. And I mean, we had 5 minutes. Literally 5 minutes. The bell went, get yourself on the pitch. A couple of players, Gordon and Eamonn, would usually knock a few balls in. Brownie would hammer a couple of crosses in. And that was it. Whistle went and you were in the game.
Brian, it's Dave here.
Hello, mate.
Just staying on the subject of goalkeepers, I'm sure you've heard that we've got 3 goalkeepers at the Den with the arrival of Connell Truman He's got a short deal. We got him from Birmingham. What was your take on that? And the other question I've got for you is, we've seen as Bart had that save at the penalty on Saturday up at Sheffield United. Did you have any sort of any sort of plan or training for penalties, or did you just sort of take it as they came?
No, obviously when you're playing against players and named players, you'd be on the lookout for any time they did have a penalty, whether it's shown on the big match or match of the day or whatever. But normally you had to make your decision, and if you're right, okay, but if you're wrong, they score. So it's a shame that the penalty save didn't alter the result as such. But we're going to see how it goes now with the game against Cambridge United. It was funny to see Coventry City last night. I mean, to get beat 4-1 at home by Bristol City. A little bit of a shock, I suppose that was. But just going back to your goalkeeper, sorry. I don't know much about the third keeper that they brought in. All I do know is he's played not a lot of games in the last 8 or 9 years. I don't think he's ever been a number one. Obviously, the manager knows him probably when he was at Birmingham. 3 goalkeepers. Well, there's nothing wrong with competition as long as the 3 are good enough. It'll be interesting to see whether he ever gets on in a first team game. But the 2 that he's got there at the moment are capable. The Polish boy's done well since he come here. I think he's the number one, and I would, if I'm number one, I want to play every game. But nowadays, of course, other goalkeepers have to play, or your second goalkeeper has to play in the Carabao Cup or the FA Cup or whatever. I wouldn't have been happy with that. If I'm the first choice, I want to play every game. As I say, it'll be interesting. If you need 3 or if he thinks he needs 3 goalkeepers, fine. But let's just hope that all 3 of them, or certainly 2 of them, are quite capable of playing in the Championship. And I hope the third one is as well. I don't really know enough about him, to be honest.
Yeah. All right, Brian, it's Stan here, mate. How are you?
Not too bad, Stan. You keeping well?
Good. Yeah, not bad. I've got a main question I've got to ask you, but it's just one other thing I just want to mention. You was just talking about the goalkeepers and in the time and the differences now and whatever. Now, last week I was reading Jack Charlton's book. I mean, it's a very interesting book, but he talks about the time when he started to, when he used to come up on the line, didn't he? Stand in front of the goalkeeper, and then as the ball come over, in 9 cases out of 10, he put the ball in the net because he was always in front of the goalkeeper. Now, I suspect if a bloke was to do that today, right, probably 9 cases out of 10, the referee would blow up for a foul. Although the goalkeeper was behind him. You know what I mean? I just think that would happen. I mean, I don't know what your view of that is.
No, well, I always used to have a player in front. If for example, I played against Jack, and Jack had a habit of standing on your feet. And also, if the ball was kicked and it was halfway between the corner flag and the near post, his hands would wander a little bit and all. And just as you were making your move to jump, you might get one of those feelings where you think you're going to be sick. And Jack had 1 or 2 habits, but.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the other thing I would say is that, I mean, if you take old Joe Hart when he was at Man City, he was the number 1 goalkeeper. And at that particular time, he was the number 1, the England goalkeeper. Now, all of a sudden, old Pep turns up, doesn't he? And because what he eventually got rid of him. It wasn't on the basis of his shot stopping skills and all this stuff. I mean, he had no problem with that. But he said he's not good enough with his feet. His distribution, he said he's not good enough, and therefore he's got to go. I mean, It also, I mean, when I read it and I read it again to make sure I got it right, and I mean that's what he was saying. He had to go because his distribution with the ball, in his view, was not good enough, and that's why he got rid of him.
There again, it's you come from a country like Spain, and you look back at their football, and you look back at there wasn't that much attacking at corners, was there? Goalkeepers and players like we had in our game. These thug centre halves, as you might call them, or thug centre forwards. Who were very, very physical. In that kind of football, not so physical. But it's amazing because I really, when I first saw Joe Hart, he had everything. I mean, the size, he looked the part, he was brave, big boy, come for stuff. And I thought he kicked it not too bad, to be honest. But obviously the boy he brought in, Edison, from Portugal, is an unbelievable kicker of the ball. I mean, whether it's off the floor or from his hands, I mean, he puts stuff in behind fullbacks when you're thinking there's no way it's going to happen. And nearly a 50, 60-yard ball, which, okay, if that's what the manager wants, that's what he wants. But I thought it was a little bit harsh just to, England's number one goalkeeper here, and all of a sudden he's in the wilderness.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So England manager has Everton to start to look for another number one because his number one's not playing regular football. But,
now, just one more question, Brian. You were clearly held in high. I mean, you was clearly held in high esteem and still are down at Millwall. I mean, there's no question of that. And I suspect that is very much the same with Coventry. Right now, we got them on Saturday. So how do you see that game panning out on Saturday, mate?
Well, I saw the game, funnily enough, last year. And it was a really good game. I mean, it was a really good game. I thought it was entertaining. I thought we were lucky after the first half, but we worked second half. We managed to get a goal back, and I thought it was a good, solid game. If it's half as good this year or this season, then I think you lot have got a very entertaining afternoon. I looked at the side that played against Sunderland and drew up there, and the side that got beat last night. There were only two players who started last night, who started against that were in the team against Sunderland. That's McFadden, the centre half, and Allen in midfield. I mean, the boy Bidwell came on after about an hour last night, but so in actual fact, the team that got a point against Sunderland, if he plays the same side, it's going to be pretty fresh anyway. I quite like the Swedish boy up front, Grigoris. I think he's a strong runner. This is the kind of player that Millwall have got to try and find, because to buy a 20-goal a season centre forward, you're going to start having to lob out a lot of money. And I mean a lot of money. Well, as we know, a good centre forward who's going to guarantee you 20 goals a season ain't cheap.
I think Coventry spent $1 million on Grigoris. I think. Brian,
he came from Portsmouth, didn't he?
I'm not sure where they got him.
He was on loan. He was on loan last year, I think, if I remember rightly. But this lad, whether Millwall's scouting network doesn't take in Scandinavia, but funnily enough, when Neil Harris was there, I can remember mentioning the boy Pukki to Millwall because he was on a free transfer from Brøndby in Denmark. He was playing, scored a lot of goals in Denmark, and the first time I saw him was in a European, a UEFA Cup match against Stuttgart, I think it was, in Helsinki. And he looked sharp. He was sharp. He scored 2 goals that night. Okay, they got hammered when they went to Germany, but he then moved to Germany. Wasn't successful. Ended up in Denmark. Scored a lot of goals in the Danish league and was on a free transfer. I mean, everybody had a chance to look at him and say, OK, we'll take a chance on him. Norwich done it. He got them up. He scored goals in the Premier, and he'll probably be scoring goals again in the Championship. So I think Millwall, the recruitment or their scouting has to start looking around for players who could be available, in especially Scandinavian players.
I think
Always seem to do well.
I think the problem is, Brian, and you touched on it when you said Harris, right? In that, Harris had a certain way of playing, right? And if for example, like the guy you're talking about, Pookie, if Harris was of the view he didn't fit into the way that he played, then that was it. I mean, I give you the classic case, and not a striker, but I don't know if you've seen that kid at Crystal Palace, Ezra. I mean, we had him, and for him to get, and because he didn't play the style of football Harris played, they kept playing him wide. He had to keep going out on loan. Now he's in the Crystal Palace team, and he's on the verge of a full. Well, he's actually been called up to play for England. I mean, we had him, and we got rid of him because he didn't play the route one way that Harris did, and that's the reason he went.
Well, I always feel
the problem.
It doesn't matter what system you use. Everybody needs a centre forward.
Yeah,
Everybody needs
right,
a centre forward who's going to score goals. And today's game, I mean, if you've got somebody up front with pace, that's always going to give you that little bit of extra. I've been watching the team in Norway now, Bodø/Glimt, they got the quarterfinals of the Europa Cup last year. They've sold three front players. They've sold to different clubs in Europe. And now they've got another two. They've got a 19-year-old boy out front who is, he's so quick. Manchester United are coming to look at him tomorrow night when he plays. I mean, whether he's good enough for that level, but these are the players that we should be exploring and having a look. I live over here. Nobody's ever rang me from Millwall to ask me if there's anything over here. Nobody. And I've been scouting for 30 years for Premiership clubs. Now, if somebody can't pick up a telephone, and I'm sure somebody's got my telephone number there, then I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go chasing a job for Millwall Football Club. But my heart's always with Millwall Football Club, and if I could help them, I would. But hey, it's a phone call, and today, internet. I mean, how are we talking today? So there we go. That's another story, as they say.
Good point. Well made. Got that. Brian, some great. I'm going to have to hold you back, Ted, because time.
Sorry, mate. No, it's gone.
Okay.
There's some great stuff come through there, particularly on the striker business. But lastly, I must push you for a prediction for Millwall versus Coventry on Saturday, and also for our trip to South Wales to face Swansea on Tuesday. What do you reckon?
Well, we got. I think it's going to be a hard game on Saturday. I'd certainly be happy that we don't get beat, but of course I'm always, of course I want Millwall to win all the time, and but to be realistic, if we get a point from this game, I would be happy, because after such a great start and then being brought down to earth last week with the defeat in the Carabao Cup, which I couldn't believe, and then this at the weekend again. If we'd have got a point at Sheffield, I'd have been well happy, which would then maybe have opened the door for a win against Coventry. But long trips. I'll say it's going to be one each. But in my heart, I hope it's 2-0 to Millwall. But going to Swansea, I mean, it's a long trip like we had last year there.
Yeah.
Looked as though we were going to tie the game up and then got beat.
Yeah.
So, we can't give goals away. If we're going to be challenging for playoffs, we lost too many games too early and came late and just missed out on a playoff.
Yeah.
If we'd have got points earlier in the season, we could have comfortably maybe got beat 1 or 2 games. But we want to be up there with the Flyers, and I'm looking at clubs that are up there at the moment. I mean, Sunderland are up there, Birmingham are up there. Sunderland just come up. We've got to be in that melting pot without any shadow of doubt.
Okay.
So Swansea, again, if we get a point there, it'll set us up. Are we at home again or are we away after Swansea game? Do we know?
Norwich.
Well, that's it. That's certainly going to show us the way where we're going to go, because the next 3 games now are crucial after losing at Sheffield United. I know it's only 2 games, but don't let the gap get too big. And we've got talent in the team. We've got decent players. The manager's been out and bought players. Let's hope the players start rolling their sleeves up and saying, well, we want to go one place, and the playoffs are the least of it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Bryan, thank you for that. It's been a pleasure as usual. We look forward to you returning with the insight that you possess about the wonderful game, and which fans can get an appreciation of in your book, The Lions King, which is available at all good bookshops and Amazon. Bryan, thanks again. Be in touch soon. Bye, mate.
Thank you, Eamonn. Bye. All the best to all of you.
Cheers. Cheers.
Bye, Bryan. Take care.
Enjoy the game. The weekend.
What I was going to say, Eamonn, was if
Yeah.
there's anyone at Millwall listening to us, get on the phone to Bryan King, because he can see a player, and why we haven't got someone like him with the knowledge that he's got, and just trying to say to him, you know, if you see something, let us know, we'll come and look at it. It baffles me.
Let's see what happens. Anyway, we'll take a break there and listen to Debbie Julians and Harvey Brown talking about the Lions Food Hub.
First of all, let's hear from Harvey Brown.
Have you heard of the Lions Food Hub? It is now located in the Millwall Community Trust car park. That's beside Millwall's Den in Ballina Road. That Millwall Lioness, Kelly Webster, is involved. Don't forget to help the Lions Food Hub if you can. Thank you.
As Harvey said, they need your support, and you can help if you can by making a one-off or a regular monetary donation online at Banquet. That is BANKUET. You should make donations on a match day at the Lions Food Hub, opposite the 1885 bar, the Cold Blow Lane end of the ground. Alternatively, you can also contact the team via their Twitter or Facebook sites.
Hey, I'm Eamonn Barclay, and with me I have the No One Likes Us Talking team of Ted Robinson, Dave Hart and Stan Godwin. Energy and food poverty is rising beyond our wildest dreams from 12 months ago and is likely to double again. But your kindness will be much appreciated and lessen the burden on the many families who are at risk. Okay, let's hear from Ellis Barr, who looked excellent kicking a football around, wielding a cricket bat recently and sporting a new Millwall kit. Here's Ellis.
Ellis here. Thank you for watching my videos. Now to hear what the Millwall Lionesses and Romans have been up to, and to hear who is next up for Gary Rowett and the Lions. Come on, Millwall!
Yeah, come on, Millwall, in all its contexts. Well, the Millwall Romans and Millwall Pride are yet to return to action, but are undergoing extensive preparation ahead of their season start. The Lionesses made their third signing ahead of their season, with Grace Seeley the latest to join, following Jade Keogh and the very experienced Gemma Bryan, who joined us. It has also been announced that they are to face Bromley Ladies at Hayes Lane on Sunday the 2nd of October at 2 p.m. in the FA Cup second qualifying round. I can see many heading towards Bromley to see that game played out. So, Millwall, Gary Rowett and the first team. Tomorrow we're facing Coventry City at the Den. They are a team that have frustrated us since their return to the Championship. We have won none of our last 4 home games against Coventry, recording 2 draws and 2 losses. The betting sees a Millwall win as being favoured. Can we shake off the memories from Bramall Lane? What are your thoughts and your prediction?
I was very impressed with Coventry last year. I think they're a good side, and Brian mentioned earlier about the centre forward, Grigoris. The other one is O'Hare, a good player in midfield. A good side all round, and I think they'll obviously be the same again this season. So it's not going to be easy, but we've got George Honeyman coming back. I expect the team to look more similar to the side that played at home to Stoke. And I think all this season we're going to be fine at home. I fancy us beating anybody at home, but Coventry's a tough. They're going to be a tough nut to crack. They don't give a lot away. You can ignore the fact that they lost 4-1 to Bristol City, because that means absolutely nothing with that Carabao Cup. Look more closely at the Sunderland game. That's a bit more of a indication of what sort of side's going to turn up at the Den on Saturday. But I'm confident. We do owe them one. We haven't beaten them in 4, is it? 4 games since they've come back. So it's our turn.
Yeah.
It's our turn to win. And a bit like how Sheffield United really owed us one, we owe them one. So, I'm confident. It'll be tough. I think it'll be close. But I think it's going to be 2-1 to us.
Wonderful. Dave?
They're going out front, Goikers and Jake Bidwell, Matt Godwin. These are 3 players that are dangerous when they're on their game. And their defence is well put together with Carl McFadzean right in the heart of it all. So, they're a fairly good, well-drilled side, and they are going to be hard to break down. But as you say, Ted, I fancy us at home this season against anybody. So it will be tight, and I'll go for a 1-0 win for Millwall.
Okay.
I'll just say, Eamon, one factor that we've got to think about for Saturday is the heat. It's going to be a very hot day on Saturday, so I don't think there'll be much in the way of being a fast-paced game for 45 minutes. I think, it's going to play its part in the day, I think.
Ted makes a good point there about the weather. I remember last season watching Coventry. Let me say this, I don't know the difference in the lineups this season to what it was last season. They get hold of possession of the ball and we keep giving it to them. They won't be getting worn out, but we will, trying to get the ball back, and the heat ain't going to help us. They were excellent last season at keeping the ball and moving it, and they moved it quick. And they don't just pass it around for the sake of passing it around. There was an end product there. With a bit of luck we'll win it, but if we win it, I think it'll only be by the odd goal. 1-0 or 2-1, something like that.
Okay, Stan. Well, a lot can change before we face Swansea in South Wales on Tuesday. But in our last 5 matches against them, we have lost 3 times and drawn twice. Can we improve on that record? Dave?
Well, I think we've been unlucky at Swansea on a couple of losses. We've been there. They've got 3 players up front, Bobby Femi, Neacham and Grimes. Again, a good defender in Carl Norton. So these teams are set up to frustrate and keep a ball. And they're dangerous on the break and can score goals from open play, which is something that sadly we lack. But I think if the players keep coming back as they have been, Honeyman, as we've spoken about before, will be an asset, and a solid defence as we had against Stoke. I know we're away, but I think that central defence we had worked very well. So I think we could possibly get a result there, at least a draw, but I think we can actually grab a result. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 away win.
Stan?
When we played them back in, I think it was February or something like that, and they were below us in the league, and their form to some extent was erratic, but the night they played us, they gave us a masterclass in movement and passing, and we just couldn't get the ball. What tends to happen is the crowd get frustrated with the players. They start getting the ump because the crowd are on their back. They start throwing themselves into tackles, and we start picking up yellow cards and one thing and another. They were 1 up. They were never ever going to concede a goal unless it was a penalty. I'll go by the odd goal. I mean, if I say that, and if I'm sitting there and we're 3-0 up, I mean, nobody's going to be more pleased than me, but we'll see. But I think it'd be by the odd goal.
Okay, Ted.
Your statistics are frightening the life out of me, Eamon. We haven't won a game against either of these sides in 9 games, which It doesn't sound good. But look, Swansea are, I mean, we spoke about Coventry being a good side, but Swansea are definitely a possession side. Like Stan was just saying there, they do keep the ball. Russell Martin is renowned for that. I think even when they lost the other day, they had sort of 65% of the possession, but it showed nothing for it. The game that Stan's talking about last year, it actually came right for them. They played their football, they didn't make any mistakes, and they looked a very, very good side. But they are a Jekyll and Hyde side at the moment, Swansea. If it works for them, they're good. If it don't work, they tend to be bad. So I just think we may well have a side that's capable of dealing with Swansea this year. I really do. I think we could be a bit more of a patient side. We've got to give our side a bit of patience as well, because Honeyman, Shackleton, good players, and they are good players, Cresswell and that, they are still feeling their way a little bit into a Millwall team. So they're not the finished article, they'll be the first to admit that. We haven't really created too much for Benik Afobe so far, and I'm sure once he gets a chance he'll start scoring. We ain't going to make the mistakes, I don't think, that we did at Sheffield United. And I'll take us to perhaps nick a 1-0 win at Swansea.
That's wonderful. 2 tough games, there's no doubt about that. Nice to see that you're positive that we can improve on the games that we've had in the past against these 2 sides. But don't forget, we may have Andreas Volshammer, our new sign-in from Union Berlin, in the side against Coventry, with all the technicalities ironed out. We'll take a break there and hear what Fantastic Fanatics can do with a little bit of help from ourselves. That's all of us, actually. So let's hear what they can do.
Hi, I'm Richard Gordon, and I'd like to invite you to become a Fantastic Fanatic. Fantastic Fanatics is a great way to raise funds for your sports club. Sign up today, find your club, and securely register your everyday debit and credit cards. Every time you spend with our retail partners, they pay a percentage back to your club. It costs you nothing, and you can win cash prizes along the way. Visit fantasticfanatics.com and help your club be the best it can be.
I'm Eamonn Barclay, and with me I have the No One Likes Us talking team of Ted Robinson, Dave Hart and Stan Godwin. Our final guest tonight is not a stranger to the show, but is a stranger to our shore. That was Aka Bilk, wasn't it? Oh, God, blimey, that shows me age. He has his Facebook group called Millwall in Sicily. Let's welcome expat Nick Wythe. Hello, Nick.
Hello, thank you very much, and thanks for the plug on Millwall in Sicily.
Yes, we always like to do that.
Hello there, how are you? Hello.
All right, Nick.
All good here, thanks.
I'm fine, thanks.
Nick, before I let you off to the panel, I would just like to say how sorry I am that you, amongst others, have not received the prediction league for the past 2 seasons, despite our leader, gorgeous George Lampy, promoting this initiative extensively. And as 2 of the team, Ted and Dave, who put it all together, are with us, what would you like to say to them?
I think you need to hang your heads in shame.
Well,
I can tell you, Nick, our leader, George, was the man that dumped it in the first place. So, if I hang my head in shame, I don't know what he's got to hang, but he's got to hang something in shame.
Well, probably too late now.
Am I not right, Dave?
It was quite tricky to do at times, but we enjoyed doing it, and it was just a little bit of fun every week. And there was quite a bit of participation, and actually there was a lot of competition between the different players. Obviously we had people's names. We didn't know who they were. We had a rough idea of who they were, but there were people that were actually playing on there that knew the other people and were trying to do better than them every week. We all know that George was trying to outdo us all the time, but I think he failed miserably. Might be one of the reasons why he done it.
And there's your answer, Dave. That's why he brought it to an end. George failed miserably. That was what it was all about.
Sounds like your school report, doesn't it?
Yeah, must try it harder. Come on, Stan, what you got to say?
Yeah. Well, how are you, Nick? Are you all right, mate?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, Stan?
And it's nice and warm in Sicily, then, I take it.
Yeah, it's about 35 today, so it's pretty toasty.
Well, they reckon it's going to be 36 here on Saturday, so we ain't going to be too far apart. But anyway, what I'm going to ask you, mate, is what do you think of our fans that continuously look to blame some part of the organisation, from the manager to the physio team paying high enough wages for our failure to win the league?
Yeah, well, I think, Millwall are like any other team, really, aren't they? They've got a budget. It's as simple as that. And, you could say that some of the teams that have come down from the Premier League with their parachute payments obviously have a lot more to spend, not only on transfer fees, but also on wages. And I think it's fair to say also that Jed Wallace went to West Brom for more money. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, he's in the same division. And other players do exactly the same thing. And I think a lot of players don't come to Millwall because of the money. As much as not wanting to play for Millwall, perhaps, but it's all about the budget. I mean, you think that John Berylson has pumped an absolute fortune into Millwall. To point a finger at people, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, they've just went out and spent what I understand to be 2.4 million on Fleming, which absolutely smashed out. So a record, It's not a lot of money, even at championship level, but it's a lot of money for Millwall. So I don't really have a lot of time for people that, complain about the budget, because, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, Millwall's average attendance at home dictates, realistically, how much money they're going to generate at the gate. They don't sell, I don't think, a lot of replica shirts and all that sort of thing. And I was in Canada recently, and a lot of the stores are carrying replica shirts of Man United and Liverpool, and obviously you don't see Millwall shirts there. So, I mean, they've got to compete with clubs like this, and even the Sunderlands now in the Championship. I mean, how many people are they going to be having at home? 25, 30,000? It's double what Millwall get. And even Charlton last week had more than Millwall had at home. And they're a division below.
I mean, I do agree with you. And because you see what happens is that when people start talking about the amount of people that are not attending and one thing and another, I mean, the usual excuses get trotted out like, well, it's expensive, it's this, that and the other. I understand all that, but the fact is that Millwall Football Club is not the only club with supporters that have got cost of living problems. In the country's got all of them, and as you say, Sunderland, I think the other week at one home game, they had 30-odd thousand in the ground.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. It's a strange thing, really, because Millwall have got two particular problems. For some reason, and I don't know why it is, but people rather buy a ticket on the door than get a season ticket, even though they're going to every game of the season.
Yeah.
And yet, if they bought a season ticket, it would be cheap rather than the season.
Exactly.
And the other thing, which you talk about, the shirts. I mean, our lot have never been great on buying them shirts, have they? You don't see a lot of them on the day. And that's another peculiarity, as you say, compared to other clubs. But no, I mean, that's it. But the only thing that really gets me with all these things is that sometimes it's like now, for example, with Jed Wallace, right? I mean, he'll ended up. I always thought that he was going to leave anyway, right? And the trouble with it is that what people seem to have a problem with is that they can't seem to get their head round the fact that, say, Jed Wallace left Millwall because he wanted to play for somebody else. He wanted to play for a better team and where he was going to be on more money. But some people suddenly think that, it's none of them. It's the reason he left Millwall is because Millwall didn't do what they should have been doing. And with freedom of contract, as you know, it don't work like that. I think is the big problem.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. With regards to the shirts, I mean, I've just seen today, actually, Millwall's new training top or pre-match top, and it's got this sort of icon of the stadium and the surrounding area. I think, if that had been their official shirt this year, they would have sold a lot more than what they're going to be selling of the official shirt, because I think that's really nice, this new one that they brought out today or this week. To say that Jed Wallace is a traitor, which is some people are saying, and I've seen that written on the internet and everything, I think it's absolute nonsense, really. I mean, if he doesn't want to play, he doesn't want to play. And I think if Millwall had offered him what West Brom were paying him, he might have considered it. Are West Brom going to get promoted? Well, we'll see at the end of the season. Hopefully Millwall will get promoted. Will they get promoted without Jed Wallace? Well, again, time will tell.
That's right.
Hi, Nick. It's Dave back again.
Hello.
Totally agree with what Stan was saying about the shirts.
Yeah.
They do have some good shirts. I mean, I've got a shirt, but I only wear it on holiday when I go to Malta. So,
right.
Not far from you.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So, one of the new features that we've got in our fans section is to ask what your most memorable Millwall game was and why.
Well, I suppose a lot of people, including me initially, would say the FA Cup semi-final, Millwall 1, Sunderland 0. And although I wasn't there, I actually watched that live, of course, and that was a tremendous day. But I'd have to say that my favourite all-time game was back to 1990 at the Old Den, of course, where Millwall were at home to Sheffield Wednesday, who were pretty tasty in those days, and they were 2-0 down at half-time, and Hurst, the Sheffield Wednesday striker, was causing absolute pandemonium. He could have had 5 or 6 in the first half. They were completely outclassed and outplayed. They came out in the second half kicking towards the CBL, and they ended up winning 4-2. And I remember Carter and Sheringham scoring, and I remember Allen sliding the ball in, and at the last minute I think it was Alex Ray scoring, and there's some great names there, and I think all 4 of those would make the current Millwall team, to be honest with you. And for me, it's a great memory, apart from the fact that Millwall weren't often losing at half-time and being completely outplayed. In the second half, they completely turned that around, and there were 4 really good goals as well. But for me also, there were no cell phones, no internet. You could drink beer on the terraces. I remember going up the back and carrying down about 8 plastic cups full of beer. They were only about half full by the time I got down, but between the 4 of us, we managed to drink them. You could do that in those days, and of course you were standing. People were smoking around you and all that sort of thing, so it was a different atmosphere, a different time, I suppose, but for a game, it's probably the best I've ever seen Millwall play in a second half, certainly. So for me, that sticks in the mind. I think that was 1990, and I think Millwall finished 5th that year, missed out on the playoffs, and I think Sheffield Wednesday got promoted. And if memory serves me right, the champions were Oldham, who got promoted up to what was then the First Division, which just goes to show you what can happen.
Yeah, I remember that game very well, Nick. It was, apart from the Cup semi-final, that's funny enough, that game was one of my favourites. Yeah,
great time. It was a great Millwall team, and some really good players in it. Cascarino had gone by then, but we still had Sheringham, and a magnificent team.
Hi Nick, it's Ted again, mate.
Hello.
Hello, mate. Right. Oldham, whatever happened to them? Yeah, that's a strange one, isn't it? Brilliant memories, mate, without a doubt. Yeah. But we got up to today, 1 win and 2 defeats. What are your feelings about the team that Gary Rowett has brought together for this season? Got some good players, I think, we've signed. I actually did say before the Stoke game, I thought that we had a stronger squad than we had last year, and I still stick by that, and I still think we need a little bit more. But how do you see it, Nick?
Well, I'd agree with all of that, what you just said. Basically, I think the players that he's brought in have strengthened the team against the ones that have gone. I mean, Kieftenbeld, Mahoney, Romeo, he went for nothing, which, amazes me, really. Jed Wallace, of course, was a nothing. Lovelace is gone, and Pearce, was past his prime, in fairness to him, and dropped down a couple of divisions, but at least he's still playing. You bring in 5 or 6 players, re-sign Afobe. This Cresswell and Shackleton, I haven't seen them live, but they look pretty promising to me. Honeyman, I've seen him play. He's the sort of person that you really want to avoid, whether you're playing him in the park or on a championship game, because he's going to snap at your heels. Yeah. He's a cross between Briley and Hurlock for me, and he's going to be a real pain for a lot of people this season. Fleming, well, I haven't seen him at all. I'm excited by the transfer fees, so someone obviously knows what they're talking about. And of course, we've got new goalkeeper who I know nothing about. What's interesting for me is that, we've got Alex Aldridge, who's come in on the recruitment side, and we've got Marshall, who's the new goalkeeping coach, and Rowett himself, who's brought in these players, of course. But to me, the real problem is the fact that we're still 3 or 4 players short. That's where I'm coming from. And we've got the same forward line now that we had last season trying to get promoted. And we're going to try and get promoted with the same forward line this season. I just don't see it. And Rowett was on record earlier in the week saying that they may be getting close to signing somebody. And we're 2.5 weeks away from the end of the transfer time cut-off. I would like to see 2 strikers coming in. I really would. I think the team that he's got there, once they all gel together, it's a top 10 team again, hopefully a top 6 team.
We was talking off air just before we come onto here about the Premier League have to name 25 players before long, which means that there's going to be a few players that are left in limbo, shall we say, for one word or another. Could well be a young striker. I'm sure there'll be something to pick up there on loan. Again, I'm with you, another striker. If we had someone with the class and the quality of like a Wiseman or a Vidra, I'd like to see a young, pacey player to come in from somewhere. And then I really would genuinely think, and I mean this quite honestly, that we had the potential to be not only chasing the playoffs, but even automatic promotion. I think if we could solve that problem. That's where our problem lies, at that end of the pitch.
Well, there's no doubt about that. I mean, Millwall at the moment, their best chance of scoring a goal is from a set piece. I mean, you got to look at that and think, is that right? But we do need 2 strikers, and if he gets them with this team, if it gels, I think we can get promoted.
Anyway, Nick, that's some great insights into your views about where we're at and where we can possibly go. And I think that joins up with our first guest on the show, Bryan King. He had some interesting views around all those issues. So thanks for joining us once again from sunny Sicily, where the heat is hotter than in the UK and warmer than it is here in the Atlantic. Anyway, I'm sure we will hear from you again along the way, and we look forward to that. You'll have to think of another game that was your runner-up to the game against Sheffield Wednesday, though, for that. Anyway, Nick, thanks for that. But before you go, prediction for Coventry and for our trip to South Wales to face Swansea on Tuesday?
I think we're going to beat Coventry. I've got this feeling it's going to be quite a healthy win, 3 or 4 goals. I just think we're going to click on Saturday. I do. They haven't started very well, Coventry. I actually think they're going to be relegated myself. But I do think we're going to win quite handsomely on Saturday. Swansea away, of course, different proposition. I would like to think we can get a point there. If you win at home and draw away, you're going to get promoted. So if we can get a point at Swansea, 1-1 or something, or even a clean sheet, I'll be very happy with 4 points from 2 games.
Wonderful stuff. Until the next time, Nick, bye for now.
Bye. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Nick. Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
Well, Nick Wythe's given us a big tip for Saturday then. 4-0.
Eamonn, I've got to stop you. I'm lost here. 1 minute we're in Norway, next minute we're in Sicily. What's going on with this show?
And the Atlantic too. You never know. We're a global...
Around the world with no one likes us talking.
As it says on our bar, broadcasting to Millwall fans around the world. That's us. Well, here's looking forward to the games ahead. But in the meantime, here are a few matters of interest for Millwall fans.
First off, what about sponsoring a player, enjoying a great executive lounge VIP package with family and or friends, or just getting behind the club in a number of different ways? And that includes business propositions, from advertising to sponsorship. Just contact the lovely Andrew Stead, Edgar or Lucy in the commercial department to find out more. Good night.
Next week, Eamonn is back for the show on Friday at 8 o'clock to host the Thorn Amongst Two Roses show with Jeff, Debbie and Bethany. There will, of course, be a review of our 2 games and a preview of what is coming up with a couple of guests too. So don't miss it. And that's good night from me.
The next Millwall History and Heritage Tour takes place on September the 24th, starting at 11 a.m, and tickets are currently on sale on eventbrite.co.uk. That's eventbrite.co.uk. Just search for Millwall History and Heritage on the site. And it's good night from me.
Don't forget, you'll be able to listen to the No One Likes Us Talking team bring reports from our games both home and away, and updates on Millwall Community Matters too on Maritime Radio, broadcasting on 96.5 FM. Links are on our Instagram, Facebook and Twitter social media sites and all popular podcast sites. That's it from me. Thanks Ted, Dave and Stan, our guests too. Finally, let's not forget to keep it safe on the streets out there.